Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, July 9th, 2025. So we go back to the scene with Leo, Harvey, and Gwen. So there's no love lost between Gwen and Leo because Leo was hoping that they would reunite. That's why she's here in Salem. So she's like, my world doesn't revolve around you. I'm here to do certain business. So he was confronting her about the necklace she's wearing, that it belongs to Julie, stolen property. So she said, it's hers now. She paid a huge amount of money for it, and it's hers. So anyways, he's saying to her that you need to bring it back. You're just keeping it out of spite. So she's like, who are you to tell me what I'm doing is immoral after what you've done to me, backstabbing me and, sleeping with my husband and all of that. So Harvey didn't know about that little tidbit about Leo. So Leo said that, he'd explain later. So she tells Harvey what's going on, and she tells Harvey to be careful of this one because, he always seems to hurt the people that he claims to care about, he claims to love. So he needs to watch his back on him, right? So anyways, she tells Leo that she hates him for what he did, and she continues to hate him. And he said that he's trying to be better, he's trying to have a heart, have a conscience, and she finds it hard to believe. He said that he's turning a huge leaf, and he doesn't know what else he can do. And he said that look, he's paying for it because Dimitri dumped him, wrote him a Dear John letter. So he's now he's now receiving what he rightfully deserves. So she doesn't care about that because at the end of the day, she has his money, and that's the best that's the best reward in all of this, right? So she leaves, right? So Harvey is still upset that he's hearing all of these things, and he tells Harvey what exactly went down. He's like, how could you do that to your best friend? So he understands if Harvey wants to leave, as a result of what Gwen said, and that he doesn't really deserve happiness and all that. So Harvey eventually said, look, none of us are perfect, we all made mistakes, and even myself, I'm not perfect. So Leo find it hard to believe because of how he is. He's a firefighter, all of that. So Harvey tells him, look, like, I've done shady things as well. And they bond over the baby and how they're coming together. And Leo thinks about having a family one day, and hopefully he doesn't pass on any of his childhood trauma onto the baby. If that's the case, then he would do just as how Tessara's mother did, dropping him off at the fire station. So Marlena is up waiting on Belle because she want to know what's going on with Johnny's case, and she said that she can't really speak much on the case other than that there's a new piece of evidence and they haven't evaluated it yet to see, but hopefully it can clear Johnny of the wrongdoings and all of that. And Marlena says, are you sure that that's the only reason? How is it everything gonna go if it goes to trial, and you're going up against EJ who's defending Johnny and all that? So she said, like, look, me and EJ want what's best or what's in common, which is for Johnny to be vindicated, and I'm just gonna do my best job on that to at the end of the day defend the case in terms of the public and all of that. So at some point, they talk about Marlena, how she's doing. She has not been sleeping well because of the grief, and she's just been pacing around, and she feels as if she has been overstimulated by watching the fireworks with Brady and the kids. And she hasn't been getting much sleep, and Belle can tell because she has her room down the block, and she can hear mom pacing back and forth, and she's sorry to have kept her up, but she understands that she's going through a lot. So she said, now she has to come with the reality that John is not coming back. She used to, go on the other side of the bed and wait for him to come back when he comes from his missions, but she accepts that, he's not ever coming back. And, she realized that everybody sent flowers and cards, and at some point people have to go on with their lives, and she's kind of just there having to deal with it alone. So Belle tells her that, look, I am here for you, I'm not leaving your side, don't you ever think that, right? So she advises Marlena to sleep on the couch because she has been feeling dizzy lately, but she tells her that she went to see Sarah and everything seems clear and normal. So she suggests that she sleep on the couch instead of the bed so that it's not too familiar, so that it would be better for her, and she takes her up on that advice. So moving on, Um, Ari goes to the pub because, again, contrary to what she told her mom and her uncle, she's still trying to see what's going on with this Doug guy. I don't know why she don't cut her losses, but she sees her grandpa Roman, great grandpa Roman, asking for great grandma Kate. So Roman is not stupid. Roman was born yesterday, and he's saying to her like, "I'm pretty sure you're not here to see her. You're here to see Doug. I've seen you guys a couple of times." And she said that my uncle Rafe told me that you told him what's going on, but look, I'm not interested in him anymore. It's a done deal and all of that. You don't have to worry about me, right? So it's like, okay, I'll take your word for it, right? But again, she finds her way somewhere else so that her great grandpa can see her. She takes another route to go see Doug again. For what reason, I don't know. So Sarah is going through memory lane with pictures of her and Xander from last year's 4th of July. And Bonnie sees that she's looking through them and she's saying, I don't mean to pry, I don't mean to be nosy, but we already know you're very nosy, Bonnie. So she tells her that, even though that they're going through what they're going through, she still loves him. The heart wants what the heart wants. And Bonnie understands that because she was like that with her first husband. And even though he was abusive to her and their children, she wanted to be a family with him, and it never ended well and all of that. So she was just sharing her story, and she's saying, look, you did the right thing to have Xander far away from his daughter and from you. Like, it's for your sake that it's best that way, right? So she talks about how the influence of an ex-partner or the father of your children, if he's not really good, how that can impact the children. And how she's saying maybe Victoria won't have the same violent genes like her father, but you just got to be careful of having him around and the type of environment she's growing up into. So she heard about what happened with Philip and Xander possibly assaulting him. Not even possibly, they just know that Xander is lying, and they want him to go down for that and go to jail for that. So Sarah saying like, I know that he did it, but he won't admit it. And he was acting really strangely toward me when we were talking. We can't even be civil at all. We can't figure out this co-parenting situation. And he was you know just leaning in with his eyes and everything, staring at me viciously. So I don't know how this is gonna work. And Bonnie saying, look, he's going to fight and go to war. So you have to go to war and beat him at his game. And she talks about certain ideas, just trying to get Xander to confess about what he did to Philip. If she can do that, like, he will be gone out of her life. There will be no more troubles for her and Victoria, right? And she thinks about how she held on to the secret with her using Rex as the father, and she's saying, maybe it was for a reason to prevent situations like this with Xander. And I'm saying, how you guys think is just really twisted, because you're going to come down on Xander for his actions and whatever. And Xander is no saint, but for you guys to deny Victoria access to her father because of that, like, he's not an unstable person outside of the issues. He's not an unstable father. That should not deny him the right to have access to his daughter. I do not like that. So Ari makes her way up the fire escape to talk to Doug. And Doug is surprised that she's there, and he's saying that you shouldn't be here. And she said, like, I need some answers. Like, why did you ditch me when you were okay with me coming up your room the other night? So he said that it wasn't because of that. So she needed an explanation. She thinks that it's just sending mixed signals. So what's really going on? So he tells her briefly, vaguely, that he has this guy that he had to meet, and he owes him a lot of money, and that's why he had to push her out. He's sorry for how it came across, but that's what the reason is. So she said that you don't have to. I don't need protection. I'm grown. I'm 18, and if I have to hear this conversation over again, I'm gonna lose it, because, like, we don't need to know that you're 18 and you're grown, and you're not grown, because if you're still in your mom's place or your people's place and you're not paying any bills or anything like that, you are not grown. So just pipe down, little girl, pipe down, right? And she's saying how she like bad boys, and she proceeds to kiss him, and all of that. And I'm saying, Doug has been a letdown and a disappointment over these couple of weeks because he just doesn't have his life together. He still doesn't have the amount of money to pay off these loan sharks. He's just a bum, a disappointment. But yet still, Ari sees something in him, and Holly thought she saw something in Doug. Honestly, the two of them need to get away from this boy because he is just bad news. Honestly, he needs to just go because I'm tired of him. So we finally get to see the reunion that a lot of us were waiting for, and that was Gwen and Xander. So Xander was there looking over 4th of July pictures as Sarah was, and wondering, where did they go wrong? So he's there drawing in sorrows, and Gwen says, make that a double. So he didn't know that it was Gwen at first. So then he realized that it was Gwen, and he's like, what are you doing here? So she's, saying, she's here to tie up some loose ends and, ask if he wanted company. So they sit down and they start sharing drinks, and she heard about what happened between him and Sarah and is surprised because they seem like the perfect match and how he felt about her and that they were a family, they have a daughter together, and he felt the same way too. So she just remembers how they used to be, and she always thought about what if. She asked him if he thinks the same way, and he said not really. So she said, but I do. She thinks if she wasn't so insecure and jealous, that she really trusted in Xander's love, that you know they would be together right now. And he thinks about that as well. And you know I really like them together. Had Gwen not do all them scheming and everything and plotted with Kristen and had Sarah on the island, they would have worked out. I really like their chemistry because, for one thing, unlike Sarah, Gwen really accepted Xander for who he is. She knew him good, bad, and indifferent. I think they would have been a great power couple. Him now getting the inheritance at Titan, and she would not have judged them like how Sarah would. And Gwen was telling him about how she got the von Leuschner inheritance and how they can afford any room they want and see them in. They're not in some flea motel and nobody telling them to come out. So they were just reminiscing on the time they were together as well and what they shared in common. At some point, they're there drunk as a skunk and you know kind of tipsy, going to the Salem Inn at the entrance, and he was saying that he needed to go, and she talked about how if they could come together again now that him and Sarah are done. So she wanted to find out, so she kissed him, and he held back and said baby needs to go. So she said no, come to my room. So they go to her room. Leo and Javier outside looking at what's going on, and their mouth is open wide like, what's really going on here? So I'm here for it, and I can't wait to Sarah. The look on Sarah's face, I can't wait. So that is it, guys. Comment below your thoughts on today's episode. I will see you guys.